Evening, everybody. This is Matt Webster, back with another video for my Christian Journey series. Today's character that I want to talk about is King Arthur. This one I'm going to break down into a couple of videos simply because there's a lot to cover. Um, I don't feel like I need to get specifically into the Christianity and stuff of this character. However, I do want to get into who this character is, who I believe he was, and what I think we, as especially men of this age and culture, could apply to this. Something I want to highlight is that I feel like there's too many people on both sides. There are men that overly worship women, um, and things like that, and then there's men who objectify women even on the right. Me and one of my buddies were talking about this. We call them super red pill, and the opposite of obviously being what I was mentioning before, what I call super blue pill. And there has to be this balance with that in mind. And the reason why I'm highlighting this at the beginning of the video, I'll also highlight it more in the second video, is that I feel like that's important to note on the code of chivalry and stuff like that, especially when you're talking about knights. Uh, Now, getting right into it, King Arthur's legend goes all over the place. Things like that: the Sword in the Stone, Lady in the Lake, Merlin the Wizard, Knights of the Round Table. Um, there's all sorts of stuff that can go into it. I have my own personal beliefs and things that I think um, are true, and there's quite a few movies and, like I said, media outlets that like have done stories on Arthur. I think some of it is true, and I do believe that there is a person that Arthur was actually representative of, um, who, according to history, some people believe was Lucius Artorius Castus, who was a Roman soldier general in the Roman army. Um, Now, I do believe that there was some kind of soldier in the Roman army who had defected and left the army for Christianity, because he does have roots to paganism and stuff, which again, not a good thing. However, I want to not get into that, and I want to get into more of, like I said, who the personal person was. Now, one thing almost all the legends have in common is that Arthur I was a stout military leader. He was someone to devote to the cause. But he wasn't devout for glory and victory. He was devout to his people. And it's really hard when you think about it now because a lot of people are self serving. And I think that's where we as people have fallen off. We all have our own goals, wants, and needs, obviously. And sometimes those things do align with the purpose that God has given you. However, I do think some of us go to a much higher calling. And I'm not saying that out of some form of like better people, better whatever. I'm saying simply that some of us, our calling is to serve the people from a perspective of leadership. And this character for me has represented a lot of like what I feel like I've done wrong, things I've had to learn the hard way through leadership. And I'll say this now, something I think really strongly of. I've had management positions in companies and stuff, and I don't necessarily like the view on management and leadership being the same thing, because I see management as more of like a dictatorship thing, even from the perspective of the way a lot of modern companies want people to have their leadership act, as they call it, which I don't think is really true leadership. I think leadership should be service based. You should be encouraging the people below you. Sometimes you have to be strong and stern with certain people, but you need to learn how to be soft and gentle with others. Um, and I think the Knights Code does a really good job of that. And one movie that I would like to highlight that was a very good Arthur movie was actually the one that had the girl from Pirates of the Caribbean, Christina Knightley, I think is her name. I don't remember the other actors and actresses' names in the movie, but I will say that if I was going to recommend any one of them to watch above any of them, it would be that one. And then if you want more of like a fun, whimsical, whatever, the Merlin TV show is also really good. It's more focused on Merlin and the wizard thing, which, again, not a big believer in the magic stuff, other than the fact that demons and stuff like that. But really fun show to watch, and it showcases Arthur in that show in a really fun and unique way too. But I would definitely say the Arthur movie with Christine Knightley is probably one of the best, if not the best Arthur movie. Now, the thing with Arthur too is that he was a very Christian knight and often prayed, but he very rarely prayed for himself. In fact, oftentimes he was fighting for the freedom of his men and his people, because they went around fighting all these great conflicts, all these great wars in service of the Roman Empire, even in that movie. And I think that this movie probably is the closest we're going to get to the actual Arthurian legend, um, unless more evidence is discovered. And I have suspicions on things that might be things that'll prove more of the existence of Arthur myself, that one day I would hope to like to go out and try to explore and uncover myself. Um, but more into Arthur, I think, again, as a leader, service to your people is probably the most important piece of being a leader. When you're someone in charge and you have power and you have authority, the way you use it is something that can define who you are as a human being. Something I'll get into the next video. There's an archetype of men, and like anyone who's heard of alpha males, beta males, there's a particular group of males that I particularly feel like Arthur aligns with, partially because I feel like I align with this, and that's Sigma males. I'll get into that in the next video though, just because there's a lot to go with that. Now, Arthur's moral compass can be skewed and stuff, and different variations of the stories and stuff. Even so much so that, how to put it, a couple of the legends, if I'm not mistaken, he actually wound up with his sister Morgana, who had bewitched him. Certain ones was after the fact of Guinevere, the one he chose as his queen, leaving him for his best friend Lancelot. Um, there's a lot of stuff to go on there, but morally, Arthur tends to stand more amongst the I serve my people, I fight for my people, real leadership. Um, and the thing is that there's a lot even with that to go over. Like, his knights followed him not because he told them to or whatever. It's because they chose to follow him. But I think it highlights something that a lot of people forget with the leadership and service to people. And that's that a good leader has to have a good heart and a solid mind. Arthur was also a master strategist. And almost every one of the things, you can see how he comes up with battle plans. He's smart. He's uh, even outnumbered and stuff. He comes up with a plan to defeat entire armies. One of the things that was really cool in the Merlin TV show, if you watch it, there's an episode where Camelot's about to be attacked by this other kingdom where he killed a king that he shouldn't have killed, and he feels very whatever about it. Instead of like letting his entire kingdom take the fall for his actions, because he realized he was wrong, he decided to go into single combat with this person in this kingdom. Well, even cheating the other kingdom, because his sister Morgana was evil in the show, he was able to overcome it by standing his ground in single combat, even against all odds. Which I think was kind of a cool thing to represent, because one thing I very, very much so believe in is that if you're not willing to fight the fight yourself, you have no right to ask others to, and you have no right to be a leader, or to call yourself a leader. And I don't think a person's a leader because they say they are. I think they're a leader because the people around them choose to follow them. And I think that highlights the kind of compassion, mercy, and love one must have as a leader, for people to naturally gravitate towards following you, because they could easily go off and do their own thing, but Instead, they choose to stand by you even when things are dire, unrealistic, unbelievable, uh, just altogether overwhelming. Um, One of the things I wanted to go over in this video, and some things I've gotten pulled up here, there was a thing that's really, really highlighted throughout all of Knights. Now, Arthur is called the King of Knights, the Warrior King, in a lot of different lores. He's also called the Once and Future King in some depictions, which I think, if that was part of the legend, really, it has more to do with his bloodline and the fact that somewhere down the bloodline, if he was a real person, someone would want to be just like him. I think there's a lot of people that should be inspired by this story, quite frankly, because Arthur, next to people like Jesus and that, I think is the closest we've had to what a decent man should be. Now, the Code of Chivalry is what I wanted to go over with this. Code of Chivalry is a big deal in Knight's Code. There's several different variations of like the Code of Chivalry and how they're worded, differences. I want to go over some of the things on this list of things that I believe are what truly make a man. And this is why I think being a knight amongst anything else makes the most sense, and why it's like people think the Code of Chivalry is dead and they think it's gone. I think that in some ways people might be right, but I think that the thing is that Code of Chivalry lies not with the alphas and the beta males, it lies with the sigma males, which those men are a very rare group of men. I will tell you that right now. And for the ladies listening to this video, sigma males are amongst the rarest form of males on this planet. One, we often shy away from wanting to be leaders. Like I myself, even though I've been in positions of leadership and authority, I never really want to be the person in charge. And it's not because I don't think I'm not capable of it in that. It's just that, in honesty, I'm afraid of screwing up. As simple as it gets. And the thing is you have to learn to trust yourself a lot more than anything else. And sometimes it's good to have people around you who trust you even when things get hard. And when you stand firm in your beliefs, which kind of goes along with the Code of Chivalry. In fact, I base a lot of how I act and behave with people around this specific code because of the fact that it's something that I find very near and dear to my heart and how I want to be as a man. So I'm going to go over and go over some of this code, the stuff I think is important. Nobility of service. Now, I think what this means is it's noble to want to serve those around you, to be in acts of kindness, love, humility, that kind of thing. Like you are the keeper of your people. Death before dishonor. A knight should never want to dishonor themselves. Stay true to their word. Be belief, humble. Do whatever it takes to do what is right. I don't really buy into this next one so much, which is enterprise and obedience to rule. I think sometimes you have to go against the system. Arthur himself in the one movie even did this because he didn't believe in the Roman Empire. Respect all worthy people. Now this one is interesting because worthy meaning that like people who do good things and are good people who generally just the normal everyday average people. People often think it's other knights, other things like that, and it's like everyone is worthy of the same respect and love who is working for it, working towards it. Honor all those above your station. This kind of goes again with the biblical thing, which is honor your mother and father. Sometimes it's not easy to honor those who have previously earned it, especially if you don't always agree with them. Now, I will say this. Just because someone is in a higher position of power does not mean that they're above your station. Personally, I think that there are people that are in power that shouldn't be in power. That's a topic for a different day, though. Command obedience through respect. This, I think, just basically means to get respect. Yeah, to earn respect, you have to give it. But that doesn't mean that you have to give it willingly to everyone, because not everyone who you're giving respect to has earned it. It goes two ways. Respect is earned. Uh, Scorn those who are ignoble. Again, not something I'm necessarily too worried about. Protect the innocent. This one comes down to what I think is the most basic thing, which is, especially children, make sure that the children are protected, because they're always innocent. People don't think that, but the thing is that children are often corrupted by the world and hardships and things like that whilst they form people. It's our job as those who are older and more matured in wisdom and stuff to guide the future generations. Punish the guilty. Easy enough. People who are doing bad things, who are acting immoral, who have hurt and done things to others. Whilst it's good to practice forgiveness as a Christian, it's also good to uphold truth and justice, and that means punishing the guilty. Courtesy to ladies. Now, gentlemen, I would say pay attention to this closely, because even though some women in this modern age probably don't deserve a lot of kindness, I think it's still proper for us to act in kindness regardless, because just because somebody's acting in a way that we don't agree with doesn't mean that we can't show compassion and kindness. I think personally that if we want to change things in this world, it has to start with the men. And I think that pretending like blaming all these girls that are doing things like, I know one thing that's a big topic is OnlyFans. Something in my own personal experience, strip clubs, brothels. I think it's important to understand that somewhere along the line, men fell off too, and things have been corrupted. But I think if we're going to fix things, we have to stop buying into these other things. And whilst it's not going to completely disappear overnight, and that's just probably not realistic, I think if we want women to act more like women and ladylike, we need to start acting more like men. That simple. The next one on the thing is battle is the test of knighthood. I personally believe this. I personally think that whilst you shouldn't seek war and whatever, every day is a battle, and like we have our own personal battles. I think overcoming those personal battles is more of what that means. Combat is glory. Problem is you gotta remember it's not glory for you, it's glory for the purpose of God upstairs. Defend your charge unto death. So, again, defend the people, defend those ones you love, defend your home country. Basic level understanding. War is the flowering of chivalry. The knights really truly believed that going out in service of your country and fighting wars against those who opposed and did evil things, which gets into death to all those who oppose the cause. I don't think we should realistically be going and seeking to murder people without justification. And I think if people are doing terrible, evil things like plundering and murdering, raping, things like that, maybe a little bit different, but arts are the food of chivalry. Art's a big thing in chivalrous culture. Now, this last one I think is probably the most significant on here, and that's anger blinds, a cool head wins the day. I'll be honest, in a lot of the fights I've had, I've been a hothead. I went in blind, got my butt kicked. However, the battles where I have won was when I stayed level-headed, and like, honestly, most of those fights I won, I just let the other person beat themselves down, which I think is what highlights, don't go into a fight angry. The first one to anger is the one that loses. It's just a truth that I think a lot of people who fight understand. Anyways, I hope you all got something from this video. Code of Chivalry, acts of service to the people, who Arthur probably was, and I really do believe he was a real person. On the next video, I'll go over a little bit more. There's, like I said, a lot to unpack with this character. But, again, I hope you guys all found something of enlightenment in this video. See you next time.